Hi there, hope you're all doing well. This week I grabbed one of the drill sergeants and I decided to try out a scheme more suited for a winter war. It was black and white zenithally primed, and to get started I go over all of the fabric clothing with reddish grey. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You can also join Discord using the link in the description, where you can share anything you have been hobbying on. Starting to brighten up the fabric now, I went around with warm grey and brought up all of the areas getting hit by the light, just leaving that darker tone in the recesses and shadows. Finishing up the fabric, I used Grimy grey to touch up the tops of the folds and the edges of the larger flat areas. Moving on to all of the leather parts and the straps now, I start off with a base coat of Doom Death Black. This could have been done first, but there are a few parts on this mini I think would have been more difficult to do after the black has been done. Getting in the mid-tone on the leather, I went around with Death Reaper, which isn't much difference, but it's just enough to get those recesses to look a little bit darker and add a little bit of depth into them. For an edge highlight over the leather, I used Dungeon Stone Grey, just to make a few of the edges stand out a little bit more where the light will be catching them. Now moving on to the pale grey armour, I start off with a base coat of English grey over everything. To bring up all of the panels to more where I want them to be, I went around with pale grey, just leaving that darker tone in the recesses between the panels and where the shadow will be the most. Finishing off the armour with an edge highlight, I went around with silver grey. Since I had this out, I also touched up a few of the leather parts just to make those edges a little bit brighter. Moving on to the skin, which is only her face really, I start off with a base coat of Barbarian Brawn. Pushing up the bulk of the skin, I used Dwarven skin for anything not in shadow. Getting a quick highlight onto the sharper edges now, I used Elven skin just to touch these parts up. For all of the metal parts except for the insignias on the shoulders, I used gunmetal as a once over. For the insignias, I went with gold just to make them stand out a little bit more from the rest of the armor. Her hair and the base now get done with burnt umber. I want to get a little bit more colour into the mini, so it's Amphora red to base coat the sword blade and her eye implants. Although there should only be one eye implant, the other one is actually just a piece of support that is fused with the eye. To add some interest onto the sword, I'm going for a red non-metallic look, without the hours of blending though. For the parts I want to start looking brighter, I used Emperor red just to bring these up. Since this is so translucent, I actually used this to my advantage and just added a second coat slightly smaller than the last to get a bit of a gradient. Finishing off the sword, I used Centurion red over the edges and for a smaller highlight inside the previous. I used the same process again to add a gentle bit of a gradient, just a couple of thin coats getting smaller and smaller. Finishing off the mini and darkening down the recesses a little more, I heavily thinned down some Oblivion blackwash and went over everything but the sword. And that will be it for the drill sergeant. To finish off the base, I just added some muddy ground, tufts, and then some snow effects. I'm still not sure how to use these snow effects properly, but this is better than my last attempt, so that's a good start in the right direction. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You can also join Discord using the link in the description, where you can share anything you have been hobbying on. For those of you who want to pick up some new minis or just some painting supplies, there's an affiliate link to Wayland Games in the description. To get a closer look at this mini, you can check out my Instagram page. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, don't forget to drop it a like and subscribe for more content. Most importantly though, be kind to each other.